To the City Council meetings. Tonight we have two meetings. We have a special call at 5:45, and then the public comment meeting will begin at 6 p.m. Before Mayor Parker calls the meetings to order, we ask that you please silence all electronic devices. For anyone who has requested to speak, there are two podiums in the chamber. The podium in the front and the podium in the back is for individuals with mobility concerns. We ask everybody else to step forward to the front podium. Each podium has a countdown clock located to the speaker's right that will indicate how much time is remaining. A bell will sound when you have 30 seconds left. Please, before you begin your comments, please state your name. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the City Council special called meeting on Tuesday, January 9th. I'll call our meeting to order and turn it back over to Jeanette to present Resolution 24-4000.
Tonight's resolution 24-4000, I will call on Mike Crum, city staff, to provide the staff report.
Good evening. I'm Michael Crum. I'm the director of the city's public events department, and it's my responsibility this evening to brief the council on the Culture and Tourism Fund's capital projects overview. This evening, we'll touch briefly on what makes up the Culture and Tourism Funds. We'll talk about the status of the tax funds and their recovery after the pandemic. Talk about where we are with capital projects. The city has a very ambitious capital projects program that is facing some financial challenges. And we will present you with an option to consider to help address those challenges. The takeaways from tonight is that from a tax revenue standpoint, the current funds are not only back past 2019 levels of collection, but they are currently ahead of the pace. The projections that were established in 2018 and 2019 that led a prior council to decide to move forward with the convention center expansion project. The flip side of the situation is that those revenues have not kept pace with post-COVID inflation. And so the cost of projects, particularly the second phase of the Fort Worth Convention Center expansion, have outrun the financing capacity of the current revenue streams. So the city needs to find additional revenues in order to fulfill its capital program. What makes up culture and tourism? It is 5 funds, all of which are related to visitors who come to the city of Fort Worth, and those 5 funds service 7 businesses that help generate those taxes. Where does culture and tourism fit into the council's strategic priorities? It plays primarily in economic development and community investment, and then in infrastructure, responsible growth, and fiscal responsibility. In terms of tax revenue growth, what we see is what I described earlier, that the funds all experienced significant downturns during the pandemic and then subsequently recovered, surpassing 2019 levels of collections in FY22, and then surpassing our current projections for fund growth in FY23. This is a good news story. And it applies to all 5 of the culture and tourism funds, downturn and then subsequent recovery. In terms of the future, we are forecasting what I would consider to be steady growth over the next 30 years. These projections are designed to account for economic variability. The line is never straight, right? It's going to go above trend, it's going to go a downtrend, but over an extended period of time, this is the type of growth that we expect in the hospitality market. In terms of capital projects, Our goal is to finance $659 million in capital projects between today and 2026. As you are all aware, we have over the past year financed $126 million in capital projects supported by culture and tourism revenues. And our next wave of financings are related to the second phase of expansion for the Fort Worth Convention Center. First, to fund design expenses, perhaps as soon as FY24, and then to fund construction, which we would forecast to begin in the fourth quarter of calendar 26 to be completed at the end of 2029, early 2030. At the same time that we're looking to finance the second phase of convention center expansion, we also have an obligation in the form of the city's incentive to expand the Omni Hotel from 600 to 1,000 rooms. And on the horizon, we have additional projects. We aspire to build a second hotel tower on the Commerce Street side of the convention center after the second phase of the expansion is complete. And as my friend Richard Zavala reminds me every time he sees me, the 100th anniversary of the Will Rogers Memorial Center is only 12 years away. And so we need to be talking today about what we're going to do to prepare for that event. This gives you a real sense of how things have changed from a cost standpoint. The original projections for both phases of convention center expansion, as expressed in the 2019 Hunden Strategic Partners Study, was $377 million. Today, the forecast for that same work is estimated at $701 million. We are currently committed to $95 million for phase one. It's the $606 million that represents the nut that we need to crack for phase two. One option for you to consider is a 2% increase in the hotel occupancy tax. As you may be aware, the use of HOT is restricted to tourism-related investments. The city of Fort Worth is currently at 15%, 9 of which is local, 6% goes to the state of Texas. There is a state legislated cap of 17% on hotel occupancy tax. That is both state and local. Any sort of change in the occupancy tax rate must be approved by the citizens of Fort Worth. We believe that a 2% bump would add approximately $10 million in capacity to the culture and tourism funds on an annual basis. If you're thinking about how a 2% bump compares to other cities that we compete with in the state of Texas, it keeps us in the ballpark, is the best way to put that. And if you're going to the bottom of the list and you're asking yourself why El Paso is over the state legislated cap, it's because they were at that number before the state imposed the cap. What a 2% bump in the occupancy tax rate will do is permit the culture and tourism funds to meet all of its current obligations, finance the projects that were described earlier, and also sets the table for future investments like the Convention Center Hotel, like the additional investment in the Will Rogers Memorial Center. What do we get for our investment? Essentially, the amount of convention and meetings business generated by the Fort Worth Convention Center is forecasted to double. Next steps. So we started this conversation in early December. We're here tonight to ask you to consider taking the steps necessary to move forward with an election to ask the voters to approve a 2% increase in the hotel occupancy tax. A positive vote tonight will send a request to the State of Texas Comptroller, who then has 30 days to evaluate our request to make sure that it doesn't conflict with anything else that the state of Texas has in place. A positive result from the comptroller would put you in a position to consider calling for an election on February 13th, which would then take place on May 4th. With that, I'll take your questions.
Questions from council?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Council, that's the last of our presentations for this special called meeting. At this point, we can take action to close the public hearing and act on the resolution. Councilmember Beck?
Move to close the public hearing and approve.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? If not, please vote. Motion carries. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Just give us a minute and we'll start again with our public comment.